In 1948, Britain was just starting to recover from the Second World War. Towns and cities had been bombed. Thousands of homes and buildings were destroyed, and they all needed to be rebuilt. In the Caribbean, thousands of men and women had served in the British Armed Forces. After the war, some of them answered an advert to come to Britain, where there were lots of different jobs available. Other people just wanted to see England, which they'd heard so much about. They all got on a ship, the Empire Windrush, which left the Caribbean to travel thousands of miles across the Atlantic Ocean. This was the first time so many Caribbean people had come to live in Britain. Many more arrived in the following years. It was on the 22nd of June 1948 that the Empire Windrush arrived at Tilbury Docks in Essex. But when its passengers got off, they found that Britain was not as friendly to them as they had hoped. It was cold and grey. And the Caribbean people soon experienced racism and discrimination. They found it hard to get proper homes to live in and to make friends with British people. Later, many of their children were bullied at school because of the colour of their skin. There were racial attacks, and years later, race riots broke out in cities across Britain. Settling into a new country was difficult, and black people had to stick together and support one another.
Three, two, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff. 32 minutes past the hour. Liftoff on Apollo 11.
Roger, we got a roll from
Tower clear.
Roger, roll. Forward, drift into the right a little. 30 seconds. Forward, drift. Contact light. Okay, engine stop. We copy you down, Eagle. Listen, Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed. I'm going to step off the limb. That's one small step for man. One giant leap for mankind. Oh, that looks beautiful from here. It has a stark beauty all its own. It's like much of the high desert of the United States. It's different, but it's very pretty out here. Apollo, our position 1330, 6915.
How did the Great Fire of London start? Oh, something's burning, something's burning. Fetch the ketchup, barbecue, barbecue. It's burnt and it's crispy. Before ovens were invented, all food had to be cooked on fires. My grandma told me that, and her grandma told her. All the way back to a rat who lived over 350 years ago in the time of the Great Fire of London. This is her story. It all began in London, the country's capital city. There she is! The story starts on Pudding Lane, in the home of Thomas Fariner, a baker who lived with his family above the bakery. Electricity and gas central heating hadn't been invented yet. Thomas Fariner used fire for light, heating and, of course, baking.
The bread's ready. Let's put out all the candles before we go upstairs.
Oh, Dad! It takes ages to snuff out the flames. If only somebody would invent electric lights, it would be a lot quicker.
Well, come on, hurry up then. The oven fire is already out. If only somebody would invent electric ovens, it'd be safer too.
But while they slept, a spark must have jumped out of the oven. The fire spread across the kitchen before anyone woke up. Thomas Fariner and his family climbed out of the window to the roof and escaped to their neighbour's house, all except their maid. All the houses in London were so close together, which is a very good thing for escaping. But it also helped the fire to spread. The houses were made of wood, so the fire gobbled up one house and moved quickly to the next.
Fire! We need to tell somebody about this.
I wish someone would invent the telephone and the fire brigade.
Let's get the Lord Mayor. Lord Mayor, wake up! There's a fire on Pudding Lane! I was having a lovely dream about bread. London is always on fire. Why are you bothering me? Just put it out.
They tried desperately to put the fire out. As well as pouring water from buckets, they used water squirters, which were a bit like giant water pistols. They also used very basic tools. People had to pump really hard to spray the water out, and they didn't work very well. Luckily, there was one way to put out the fire that nobody had tried yet. It meant using something called a fire hook. People used fire hooks to pull down the wooden houses in the path of the fire. If you did that, the fire would run out of things to burn and eventually fizzle out. But before they could use fire hooks, the people of Pudding Lane needed to ask the Lord Mayor if they were allowed to. And he had to say yes.
Oh, the Lord Mayor is here. He looks hungry.
Hello, everyone. Good work. Carry on. Lord Mayor, we need you to say yes to something.
Is someone toasting fresh bread?
We want,
Yes, something with the toast.
to use
Yes, butter.
fire hooks.
Yes, butter. But no, definitely not the fire hooks.
If only the Lord Mayor had let them use fire hooks. With nothing to stop it, the fire raged on and on. The wooden houses were fuel to the fire. It was a windy day which blew the fire along. It had been a very hot summer in London, so the wooden houses were dry and burned easily. It looked like nothing could stop it. What do you think happened next? What happened during the Great Fire of London? Writing things down in a diary helps people to remember important things. I'd write down what I wanted to eat every day. I learnt about diaries from my mum, who learnt from her mum, who learnt from... You get the idea. All the way back in history. All the way back over 350 years ago to 1666, the year of the Great Fire of London. In those days, when people wrote diaries, instead of using pens, they dipped feather tips in ink and wrote with that instead. Oh, there's my ancestor! The Great Fire of London started at a bakery in Pudding Lane when everyone was asleep. It spread quickly. News of the fire spread too, and it reached a man called Samuel Pepys, who worked for the king and liked to write in his diary.
Dear diary, today is Sunday. What else can I say? Excuse me, Mr. Pepys, sir. I'll bring bad news. Excellent. Something to put in my diary. I mean, what? Bad news? I've heard that more than 300 houses have been burned by a fire, sir, and it's still going. Then I'll take a closer look. Dear diary, today I decided to go and look at a big fire. People were escaping from the fire and carrying their favourite things to safety.
Samuel Pepys wanted to warn King Charles II, so he took his boat down the river to the palace. Here, the king lived with lots of dogs that looked a bit like him.
Your Majesty, I've come to tell you that London's on fire.
What's up, schmookums? We must command the Lord Mayor to pull down all the houses in front of the fire so it has no fuel to burn, then the fire will die down. Good boy.
Well, thank you, Your Highness.
Not you, Peeps.
So Peeps went to command the Lord Mayor to pull down the houses while King Charles II followed up the Thames in his royal barge to see the fire for himself.
I thought I commanded the Lord Mayor to put this fire out. Why is it still here? We'll get the army in to help pull down the houses with those big hooks. When the fire hasn't got wood to burn, it will soon fizzle out.
They used the firehooks, but they didn't stop the fire. Over the next 2 days, the fire doubled in size and destroyed half the city of London. People escaped to the outside of the city, trying to save their most precious possessions. Some people stored things in churches with thick stone walls, like St Paul's Cathedral, but then even that burned down too. It seemed there was nowhere safe from the fire, so everyone was really worried, including the diary writer Samuel Pepys.
Dear diary, I'm so worried. I have the most delicious cheese, but it might melt. How can I keep it safe from the fire?
He dug a hole to bury his precious cheese and wine in his garden. Then he went to bed. Suddenly, the wind changed direction and the fire started moving towards Pepys's house. Many more people left, including Samuel Pepys. He took his diary and his gold, but he left his cheese and wine.
Farewell, London. I'll be back. Take good care of my cheese.
Poor Samuel Pepys leaving his cheese behind. Oh, I'm not sure I've much room for any more of this. How much of London will be left when Pepys returns? And what about his cheese? Why did the gunpowder plot happen? I look forward to the 5th of November every year. Fireworks, bonfires, toffee apples! I love bonfire night. He doesn't, poor guy. That's his name, Guy Fawkes. He lived a long time ago. I heard his story from my mum, who got it from her mum, who got it from years ago. Look, that's her. The year was 1605. It was very different then. The apples were pretty similar though. People had just started to play early versions of football and tennis. There was no TV. People loved going to the theatre. And on Sundays, everyone in the country went to church. It was the law. If you didn't go, you'd be in trouble. Big trouble. Here, look. That's King James I. He was the king and head of the Church of England, so everybody had to go to his kind of church. Arguments about religion like this had been going on for ages. If you secretly belonged to another type of church, the Catholic Church, you'd be punished badly. So this is the world of my ancestors' story, the story of Guy Fawkes and the gunpowder plot. A plot is a secret plan. Here, look, shh. These men are plotters. They think nobody can hear. Let's listen in.
Gentlemen, thank you for coming. Nice hats. I've invited you here because the king is treating Catholics like us very badly. It's not fair. I'm very, very angry. And I think you are too. Am I right?
It's a disgrace.
Indeed. We've got to do something to stop the king treating Catholics badly. And I know what. We must kill the king.
Won't that make us the baddies? Treating them badly?
Ooh, so, who's ready to hear my clever plan?
So, that was Robert Catesby, the leader of the plotters. It was his idea, not Guy Fawkes. Maybe he should be on the bonfire. Catesby is going to need a cunning plan to kill the king. kings were guarded by soldiers, so it won't be easy.
OK, listen to my clever plan. Actually, let's call it a plot. Sounds even cleverer that way. The king is going to visit the Houses of Parliament.
Then we attack him.
The plot is to blow up the whole building when he's inside. Boom! After that, Catholics like us can take over the country. I feel as if I can smell it already.
Burning.
And here he is at last. Meet Guy Fawkes, an expert at blowing things up.
I like blowing things up.
So, the plot was agreed. Guy Fawkes was to carry out Robert Catesby's plan to blow up King James I in the Houses of Parliament, an important building where important people meet to make important decisions. What do you think happened when they tried to kill the king? What happened during the gunpowder plot? Oh, sparklers! Hooray for bonfire night! Isn't it beautiful? Oh! Fire is dangerous. That's why everybody must stand back from fireworks. Fireworks have a long tail, so you don't have to get too close to light them. The tail is called a fuse. The flame travels along the fuse until... Inside the rocket is gunpowder. When fire touches it, the gunpowder bangs and the rocket explodes. Boom! You get bigger bangs with more gunpowder. The biggest bangs need the biggest rockets that can carry the most gunpowder. Too much gunpowder! Now, one rat in my family knew all about gunpowder. She lived over 400 years ago in the time of Guy Fawkes and the gunpowder plot. There she is! Careful! That's Guy Fawkes. He was part of the gunpowder plot, a secret plan to blow up King James I using gunpowder. Guy Fawkes' job was to wait for the king to enter the Houses of Parliament, the country's most important building, and then light some gunpowder to blow up the whole building, king and all. The plotters had got lots of barrels of gunpowder and a cunning plan. Their first plan was to sneak 36 barrels of gunpowder to the building next door, then dig a tunnel underneath.
Sounds like hard work.
But then they found they could use a room underneath the Houses of Parliament.
Sounds easier. Let's do that. Come on, we need to get this first lot of gunpowder to Guy Fawkes.
What's the hurry? The King won't be in the Houses of Parliament until the 5th of November.
5th of November? My relative is going to be there on that day. I'll write a letter and warn him to stay away.
And aren't we supposed to keep the plot a secret?
Don't worry, I'll tell him not to tell his friends.
So, a warning note a plotter wrote. Oh, that rhymes. But here's the thing. They say that someone showed it to the king. He looks terribly fed up.
I'm terribly fed up. People keep plotting against me. I thought everybody loved the King. Guards!
Fresh handkerchief, Your Highness.
Search the Houses of Parliament. If you find anyone plotting against the King, treat them very badly.
I like blowing things up.
So, Guy Fawkes was hiding in the cellar waiting. The king was due to arrive on the 5th of November. When the king arrived, Fawkes would get his chance to light the fuse and blow up the king. But...
Hello. We are arresting you in the name of the king. Do you have anything to say? I don't like blowing things up, not me, squire.
Stand up. What's your name?
My name is, John.
What's your surname, John? Johnson? Okay, come on to the dungeon with you, John Johnson. You are in trouble. Bad trouble.
So, they've caught Guy Fawkes. He pretended to be called John Johnson to confuse them. The guards want to know if he was acting alone or with other plotters. What do you think will happen to him?
Who shall we look up today?
What about an explorer who went to the South Pole?
Okay, sounds good. Hololab, can we meet an explorer who went to the South Pole?
Searching, found. An explorer who went to the South Pole, Robert Falcon Scott.
Hi, Mr. Scott. I'm Fatima.
And I'm Ollie.
How do you do, Fatima? How do you do, Ollie? I'm Robert Falcon Scott. I set out in 1911 to be the first person to reach the South Pole. I knew that Ernest Shackleton and Roald Amundsen, a Norwegian explorer, also wanted to get there first. The race was on.
That sounds exciting.
And dangerous.
What happened?
We left Cardiff on a ship called the Terra Nova in June 1910 with everything I needed for the expedition. We had problems right away, and it was so incredibly cold. The equipment we brought with us wouldn't work, and the ponies couldn't cope either.
What did you do?
We struggled on, the dogs pulling our sledges through awful weather and across difficult terrain. By the middle of winter, it was too cold even for the dogs, so they turned back, leaving only 5 of us, myself, Wilson, Oates, Bowers, and Evans, to make the final push to the South Pole.
Wow, so there were only 5 of you alone on all that ice.
And you had no way to call anyone, no radio, nothing?
That's right. We had no way to communicate at all, and had no choice but to continue on the trek south. Finally, on the 17th of January 1912, we arrived at the South Pole.
So you were the first to get there?
Well, no. We saw the Norwegian flag flying and realized that Amundsen had beaten us. He had already arrived there on the 14th of December.
Oh no!
Indeed. Now we faced the 800-mile journey back, knowing that we hadn't been the first to get to the pole.
That must have been terrible for you.
Quite. It got even worse. The temperature suddenly dropped to minus 40 degrees centigrade. That's 45 degrees colder than the average winter temperature in the UK. Despite our insulating clothes made of canvas, wool and reindeer fur, the weather had become so extreme that it was hard to move. This slow progress also meant we didn't have enough food.
What happened?
We lost Evans in mid-February. By March, Oates was very badly frostbitten and could not move very fast. Fearful he was holding us up, he bravely sacrificed himself in the hope we would survive. I'm just going outside. I may be some time. Our expedition ended on the 29th of March 1912. We were just 20 kilometers from a supply depot. I left a letter for my wife.
What did you say to her?
I told my wife that I loved her and had no regrets about my journey. How it is better to have tried and failed than never have tried at all. And although we didn't make it back, we had the spirit to try. We took risks. Luck didn't come our way, but we were determined to do our best. That's the most important thing. Go out there and follow your dreams. I wish you all the very best of luck with whatever you choose to do in life.
Wow, what an amazing person.
I want to be a brave explorer.
Dr. Martin Luther King. In 1963, more than 200,000 people came to Washington, America's capital, to hear one man speak. His name was Dr. Martin Luther King, and the words he said that day are some of the most famous in history. He said he had a dream, that life for his children could be different from how it had been for him. But what did he mean? Dr. King lived in a part of America that had racist laws that treated black people unfairly. Racists believe people with certain skin colours or who are from a particular race are better than others, so they treat them differently. So black and white people were kept apart, eating in different restaurants, travelling in different parts of buses, and it was hard for black people to vote against the people who made these laws. He had many enemies and was sent to prison. After his release, he went to Washington. There, in front of a huge crowd, and with many more people tuned to their TV and radio, he told of his dream that his children would one day live in a nation where they wouldn't be judged by the colour of their skin, but by the content of their character. People everywhere began to share Dr. King's dream and knew that the racist laws had to change. Not everyone agreed, though. In 1968, Dr. King was shot dead for his beliefs. But the changes he started continued after he died. And so he's remembered. Every year, Americans celebrate his life with a public holiday called Martin Luther King Day, remembering a strong man and a brilliant speaker. Rosa Parks. We use buses every day to go to school or into town. It's not unusual, but this story is about a bus journey that changed millions of lives. Let's go to America in 1955 to Montgomery in the southern state of Alabama. There, when a woman called Rosa Parks refused to give up her seat, a bus journey became very important. Rosa's refusal was a protest about racism against black people. Racism is when someone thinks you're not as good as them because the colour of your skin or your race is different to theirs, so they treat you differently. At that time, southern states in America had something called segregation. This meant people of different skin colours had different schools, restaurants, even toilets. Segregation happened on buses too. One day, Rosa was in a seat for black people, but white people's seats were full. The bus driver wanted Rosa to give her seat to a white person, but Rosa said no. Rosa was a member of a civil rights group which fought for black and white people to be treated the same. She was arrested and taken to jail for a few hours. Rosa didn't fight alone. People organised a bus boycott, which meant they stopped using buses for a year. They walked instead. This bus company lost a lot of money. The boycott was a peaceful stand against racism. Judges eventually said having separate black and white parts of buses was not allowed.
Hello, friends of freedom. It's a wonderful day, and let us be thankful we have reached this point, and we will go forward from now to greater things. Thank you.
Today, Rosa Parks is remembered as an ordinary woman who took a stand to help black people in America be treated fairly, to be treated the same as whites.
Caroline Haslett, the woman engineer. Caroline was born in 1895. Her father was an engineer on the railway, and he taught her about machines and tools. She was usually happier playing with nuts and bolts than making dolls' clothes. In 1914, Caroline started work at the Cochrane Company, an engineering firm that made boilers, where she was kept busy with orders from the War Office. In 1918, The Cochrane Company sent Caroline to Scotland. The men there thought it was unusual for a woman to be so interested in engineering. After the war, she asked women which electrical appliances they would like in their homes. In 1924, Caroline was in charge of an association that taught women about electricity. She later helped the government improve science education for girls. By 1930, Caroline was well known and gave advice on engineering and electricity. During World War II, Caroline went on important missions for the British government. Caroline became a dame in 1947. She is remembered for opening up the world of engineering to women.
Who shall we look up today?
My grandmother told me about this amazing explorer, Ibn Battuta. He was a Moroccan explorer from way, way back. The 1300s, I think. Can we look him up?
Sounds great. HoloLab, let's meet Ibn Battuta.
Searching, explorer found, Ibn Battuta.
Wow, before Henry VIII, before Guru Nanak.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam. Tell us about the places you've explored.
My journey started when I wanted to undertake the Hajj, a pilgrimage to the holy city of Mecca, to visit the Kaaba, the house of God. I left when I was 21 in June 1325.
Was it far?
It was nearly 3,000 miles, as the crow flies, from my home in Tangiers in Morocco. But I had to travel by land. I made a point of never traveling on the same road twice. And because I wanted to explore, I stopped at many wonderful places.
Where did you stop?
I traveled 2,200 miles to Alexandria, which took 34 weeks, where I saw the lighthouse of Alexandria, before heading to Cairo, where I saw the Great Pyramid of Giza, 2 of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. It was hard to get to Mecca. The first time I tried, I was beaten back by bandits. So I spent Ramadan in Damascus before heading south 810 miles to Medina, and then finally, Mecca.
Did you walk all that way? How did you know which way to go?
I traveled using camels, and I had the stars to guide me.
Why did you use camels?
Life in the desert is hard. There is little to eat or drink. Horses are no use there. But because camels have lived so long in the desert, they have adapted to travel far without water and to store fat in their hump to feed on. You can ride them or use them to carry things.
How do stars guide you?
We didn't have satellite navigation like you do to tell us which way to go. However, by observing the sun, moon, and the planets, you can fix your position and work out in which direction you're going.
What was the holy city of Mecca like?
It's a special place for Muslims. I was so taken with it that I returned many times and spent many months there.
What did you do after you went to Mecca?
Normally, after being away so long, you would go home. But I didn't go back to Morocco for 24 years. My rihla, or journey, lasted for 29 years, covering 75,000 miles. That's further than 3 times around the earth. I visited 44 countries, from Tangiers in the west, and traveled as far east as Guangzhou in China, where I saw the Great Wall. And from Bogar in modern-day Russia to Kilwa in Tanzania. I witnessed the spread of Islam across the globe. As I traveled through places like India and Mali in Africa, I met many important people like princes and princesses, queens, kings, and emperors.
Wow!
What was it like when you returned home?
I had lived many lifetimes on my travels. The place I came back to in 1355 was not the same as the one I left. Imagine being away from your friends and family for 29 years, but I had with me a wife and began a new life. I wrote the story of my travels and later in life became a judge.
Thank you for sharing your journey with us, Ibn Battuta.
Goodbye.
إلى اللقاء.
Edith Cavell. Patriotism is not enough. Edith was born in 1865. Her father was a vicar and taught her how important it was to help people. When she was older, she moved to Belgium to become a governess and later travelled to Austria to find out about helping the sick. She returned home to look after her ill father and decided to train as a nurse. Later, she returned to Belgium and pioneered the training of nurses. In 1914, whilst Edith was on holiday, the Germans took control of Belgium. She decided to return there as she felt her help was needed more than ever. Edith nursed the soldiers at her Red Cross hospital. It didn't matter to her which country they came from. She sheltered Allied soldiers in basement hideouts and helped them escape from the Germans into neutral Holland. The Germans found out about this and arrested Edith. Her punishment was death. Many people tried to get her released, but they could not help. The night before her execution, she told her chaplain that it was more important to care for everyone rather than be patriotic. She was shot dead by a German firing squad on the 12th of October 1915. Edith is remembered for caring for soldiers, no matter which side they fought for.
My name is Grace Darling. I was born in 1815 in Bamborough, a small seaside village in Northumberland, the youngest of 8 children. I spent the first few weeks of my life at my grandfather's cottage, in sight of Bamborough Castle. But when I was just 3 weeks old, my mother took me to join my brothers and sisters on Brownsman Island, a remote part of the Farne Islands, where my father was the lighthouse keeper. We lived in a small cottage, which was attached to the lighthouse, and we were all very happy on Brownsman Island. But then, when I was 10, my father announced that the family was moving to a new lighthouse that had just been built at Longston, an even more remote location in the Farne Islands. Then, some years later, came the day that would change my life forever. September the 7th, 1838. A huge storm was blowing, and enormous waves were crashing against the lighthouse. I was 22 years old now, and all my brothers and sisters had left home. Only my parents and I remained in the lighthouse. I couldn't sleep that night. At about 5 o'clock in the morning, I looked out my bedroom window, and straining my eyes through the gloom, I thought I could see a ship in trouble. I ran up to the lantern room at the top of the lighthouse where Mother was on watch and where Father came to join us. We looked out from the top of the lighthouse, and through the crashing waves and the howling wind, we could just make out the shape of the wrecked ship on some rocks and what looked like some survivors. I was desperate to attempt a rescue immediately, but Father said it was too dangerous and that we had to wait until daybreak. By 7 o'clock, it was light enough for us to be able to see the survivors clearly, and I was determined to help them, come what may. So, feeling both nervous and excited, I helped Father to launch our rowing boat into the raging sea. The little boat bobbed up and down, waves broke over the side, and at times it seemed certain we would capsize. But slowly and steadily, we steered our way through the storm to the shipwreck. Father jumped onto the rocks to help the survivors, while I remained in the rowing boat, using all my strength to keep the boat steady and to stop it being smashed on the rocks. Then, Father helped some of the 9 survivors on board, and we set off back to the lighthouse. It was a terrifying and difficult journey, but finally we made it. And then Father and 2 of the rescued men rowed back to the wreck for the remaining survivors. After that extraordinary day, my life changed forever. The story of a young woman risking her own life to rescue others was on the front page of all the newspapers. And each time Father made a trip to the mainland, he returned with letters and presents for me from well-wishers. One letter came from Queen Victoria herself. If you ever come to Bamborough, you'll see the great castle. And in the grounds of the village church, you'll find my memorial. It looks out to sea, to the Farne Islands, and my lighthouse home, and to the place where, one stormy day in 1838, I was able to use my courage and determination to do something extraordinary.
Walter Tull, soccer soldier. Walter was born in Folkestone, Kent in 1888. He grew up in a children's home in London after his parents died. After leaving school, he became a printer's apprentice, but his real love was football. Walter started playing for Clapton before joining Spurs. At 21, he was only the second black Football League player. He went on to play for Northampton Town, but when war was declared in 1914, Walter joined the Footballers' Battalion. Walter was sent to France and took part in many battles. In 1917, he was made an officer and became the first black officer to lead white British soldiers into battle. In 1918, the German army was making a last effort to win the war. On the 25th of March, Walter led an attack across no man's land, where he was hit and killed. Walter is remembered by his football clubs and was also awarded the 1914-15 Star and the War and Victory Medals.
That's me, Isa, and that's my Uncle Albert. And that's my neighbour, Tommy.
Hurry up, slow coach.
Tommy says he'll look after me in my first day. Uncle Albert says I'd be better being looked after by a monkey.
Settle down, everyone. Boys and girls, meet Isa. She's joining us, so you must show her how we do things.
Thank you, sir.
So, Isa, we'll get along fine if you obey the rules. No speaking unless spoken to, always face the front, and always do as you're told.
Yes, sir.
Sit down. Now, arithmetic. Everybody, look at the blackboard. Today you're going to recite all multiplication tables from 2 to 12.
2 times 2 is 4. 2 times 3 is 6. 2 times 4 is 40. 5 times 9 is 45. 5 times 10 is 50.
Thomas Johnson, concentrate, or it's the cane for you.
Sorry, sir.
Okay, where were we? Let's move on to the 6 times table then.
I'm full up, but every day it's the same boring dinner. Bean soup and dumplings.
What was that, Johnson?
Just saying I'll clean up after dinner.
Well, get on with it then. And now let's look at some poetry. A new poem called If.
It's freezing in here.
Find something amusing, Johnson.
I was imagining if I was a clown, sir.
You are a clown, Johnson, but not just a clown. What are you?
A dunce, sir.
Okay, everyone, concentrate.
The British Empire and Dominions. India, Australia, Canada, New Zealand, South Africa, Rhodesia, Hong Kong, Gibraltar.
What do you think of our school then?
It was cold.
Why do you think I drew on the slate? Dunce gets to sit closer to the fire.
Tommy!
put your seatbelt on, please, Rian.
Why do we need to wear seatbelts, Auntie Maya?
For safety, just in case we need to stop suddenly or we bump into another car. The seatbelt stops you from flying forward and being hurt.
Oh, what a great idea seatbelts are! So, what part of our journey are we doing today?
We're driving south from here in Scotland all the way through England. Ready?
Let's go! It's so quiet in this car.
That's because it's an electric car. Many cars have an engine that uses petrol or diesel fuel to make them go. They let out smoke and pollution that is not very good for the planet or for us. But electric cars have a big battery that powers the motor and makes the car move. They cause less pollution because they don't make any smoke or fumes.
Like a bigger version of my remote control car at home.
A bit like that, yes.
Can this car go really fast?
It can go fast, but we need to stick to the speed limit.
What's a speed limit?
A speed limit is the fastest speed you're allowed to travel. That sign shows us that this road has a speed limit of 20 miles per hour.
Is that how fast we're going?
We are just a little slower than 20.
Why do we have to go so slowly?
It's for safety. We're in a town and there are people walking around, people on bikes, and the roads are quite small.
That car looks different.
Yes, that is a very old car. It is different from cars today.
The wheels are really thin.
It doesn't drive as fast and it doesn't have any electric windows.
What? When were the first cars made?
The first motor cars were made more than 130 years ago in Germany. And soon after, cars were being made in factories all around the world. In America, someone called Henry Ford made a car that lots of people could afford to buy. So it didn't take long before cars were everywhere. But cars weren't the first type of transport to use wheels. Wheels were an amazing invention. Some people even say it was the most important invention of all time. People from all over the world have been travelling with wheels for a long time. For example, some built carriages and chariots with wheels that could be pulled along by animals or people.
Pulled by people? That sounds like hard work.
And then, of course, there are bicycles. The first bike was invented over 200 years ago in Europe.
Wow, that bike looks so different to bicycles today.
Not all that comfortable, which makes this next story even more amazing. Annie Londonderry became the very first woman to cycle all around the world. She set off from this part of America in 1894. She had to catch boats between some countries, but she cycled across Europe, all the way through Asia, and then caught a boat back to America from Japan. She finished her journey exactly a year later where she had started.
Amazing! But she's not wearing a helmet. Mum always says you should wear a helmet when you cycle.
Well spotted! Bicycle helmets hadn't been invented when Annie made her journey. They didn't realise how dangerous it could be if you fell off and bumped your head. Now we know that helmets can help keep our heads safe.
This road we're on now is much bigger.
This is called a motorway, and this one has 3 lanes on each side so more cars can go on the road.
And we're going faster.
Yes, the speed limit here is 70 miles per hour.
There are a lot of different vehicles on the motorway too.
Yes, lorries, which transport things like food all over the country.
There's a van! My dad has a van for his work so he can carry all his equipment.
He does. And look, there's a passenger coach.
A coach can carry lots of people.
They transport more people in one journey than we can in a car.
My favourite type of car is a racing car.
They are pretty great. People race lots of different vehicles for fun.
Like monster trucks. When I'm older, I'm going to try and drive one of those.
An electric monster truck, I hope.
Definitely. I'm so excited, Auntie Maya. I can't believe we're going to spend the night on the train and sleep in these bunk beds.
Well, we're travelling a long way across India for this part of our journey.
We're setting off. How does a train work?
This one is an electric train, but some other trains use diesel fuel to power their engine. Let's take a look on my tablet. Train engines pull carriages that can carry all sorts of things. We're on a passenger train, so it carries people. But trains are also used to transport food, machinery, and even animals over long distances. You can see there are wheels all along the engine and the carriages. These wheels sit on the rails that guide the train along its route.
Amazing. Who thought of that idea?
Using rails is a very old invention from all over the world. Rails have been discovered in China that are over 2,000 years old. They think a horse was used to pull a cart along the wooden track.
That was so long ago.
I know. Some of the earliest rail transport in Europe was used around 500 years ago. But they were very different from modern railways and were just used for transporting things over a short distance. They had a rope system that was pulled by humans or animals that would pull little carts up a hill.
Now that does sound like hard work.
And then steam-powered trains were invented. What do you notice about this one?
There's loads of smoke or something coming out of that tall tube on top of it. What's happening inside there?
That is the steam and smoke coming from the engine. Fire and coal were used to heat up water and then turn it into steam. That powered the engine. The tube is a chimney that lets the steam and smoke out.
Nice! So where did they use steam trains first?
The first working train was used in Wales, and the first passenger train journey was made over a short distance in 1825.
Wow! So who built that train?
A man called George Stephenson. He designed many different steam engines, but it was his son, Robert, who built the most famous early one. It was called Rocket.
Good name.
I thought you'd like that one. Rocket took part in a competition with other engines along a short line of railway track. Out of all the entries, it was the only one that completed the distance.
Good work, Rocket!
Rocket was used as an engine in the very first railway line joining two cities together. Soon after this, steam trains and railway lines were built all over the world.
Where are your favourite train journeys around the world?
That's a good question. There's lots to pick from because it became such a popular way to travel. There was one called the Orient Express, which travelled all the way from London to Istanbul in Turkey. And there is one called the Trans-Siberian Railway, which travels for more than 6 days all the way across Russia.
Wow, that's really far.
But some trains just travel short distances. Lots of cities around the world have an underground railway, sometimes called a metro or subway or tube.
What do people use them for?
Underground trains below cities can take people to their jobs or helps people avoid car traffic on the roads above.
How fast can we go on a train?
Pretty fast. The quickest trains are designed a bit like jet planes to make them go super fast.
But they don't have wings, do they?
No, but the bullet train from Japan looks a bit like a jet plane, doesn't it?
It does!
Anyway, it's getting late. Shall we sort these bunk beds out?
Let's do it!
When we wake up tomorrow morning, we should be nearly at our next stop.
Excellent! How does this hot air balloon work, Auntie Maya?
Good question, Rian. Above us are our burners, which have a flame that heats the air in the balloon. The hot air inside the balloon is lighter than the cool air outside the balloon, so the balloon is lifted as the hot air rises. Throughout our journey, we'll need to be careful to keep the air inside the balloon hot so we can keep flying. Ready for liftoff?
Yeah!
So, as our balloon rises, we're lifted up in our basket, and we're up, up,
and away! What an amazing invention.
I'll just check the wind is blowing us in the right direction.
Which way are we going?
We are meant to be travelling east across northern Africa. We can check on our navigation system.
We're going the right way.
Great! A hot air balloon was the first flying machine that could carry people. But people from all over the world had used flying for other reasons before. For example, people from China invented kites.
Like my kite at home?
A bit like that. But they weren't just used for fun like your kite. They flew kites high in the sky to send signals to people far away in other towns and villages. And people used trained birds like pigeons to carry messages.
Wow, birds? I never knew you could train birds.
But it was the Montgolfier brothers in France who made the first hot air balloon that could carry people. In 1783, in front of the King and Queen of France, the brothers launched a huge hot air balloon with a sheep, a cockerel and a duck in the basket underneath.
Why did they fly animals?
They wanted to test if the balloon was safe before sending humans up in it.
The animals must have been wondering what was happening.
Maybe. The balloon was made of a silky cloth and was decorated in blue and gold. It flew for 3 kilometres, almost 500 metres up in the sky. That's as high as a really tall skyscraper. The balloon landed safely and the animals were unharmed. So later that year, Jacques-Étienne Montgolfier became the first human being to fly up and away from the ground.
Amazing. Look, Auntie Maya, a plane with 2 sets of wings.
That is a biplane. The first motor-powered airplane was a bit like that, and it was flown by the Wright brothers in America in 1903. It was made from wood and cloth and used a propeller engine. As technology got better, planes were built with single sets of wings using stronger materials, such as metal. They could fly much further and faster, even all the way across the oceans. Amelia Earhart was the first woman to fly on her own, all the way from America to the UK, across the Atlantic Ocean.
Pretty impressive. How long did it take her?
It took her about 15 hours.
Do all planes have propellers on the front?
Most modern planes use jet engines that make the plane fly much faster. You can now fly across the Atlantic Ocean in about 6 hours.
Pretty fast.
And that's one of the things that is good about travelling in the air by plane. You can cover much bigger distances in a shorter amount of time. It's faster than any other type of transport.
Why doesn't everyone just fly everywhere then?
Because planes create pollution, which is bad for plants and animals and human beings. They also need a runway to take off and land safely, so they take up a lot of space.
Aha! And what other flying machines are there?
There are helicopters that have long blades on the top that spin and lift it into the air.
It's a bit like a sideways propeller.
It is. And then there are gliders and hang gliders that just float on the wind and air.
And my favourite, rockets.
Yes, they are powered by a super powerful engine that blasts them high into the sky.
All the way to space.
The first man and woman to fly in space were from Russia, and people have even used rockets to fly all the way to the moon and back.
Do you think we can fly to the moon on one of our trips?
Maybe. Let's see how we get on in the balloon first.
Queen Elizabeth I. Almost 500 years ago, a princess called Elizabeth became Queen of England. People were worried. It was unusual to be ruled by a woman because at the time they were seen as weak and not as clever as men. But Elizabeth proved them wrong. She was strong, loved by many, and some say became one of England's greatest ever rulers. Elizabeth was the daughter of King Henry VIII. She didn't expect to be queen. She was third in line to the throne. Both her brother and sister died without having children, so Elizabeth became queen. To show people she could rule the country well, she had portraits painted of her as strong, mighty, and rich, just as a queen should be. But Elizabeth had enemies like King Philip of Spain. In 1588, he sent the Spanish Armada, a fleet of more than 100 ships to invade England. Elizabeth stayed strong. She told her soldiers and sailors, "I know I have but the body of a weak and feeble woman, but I have the heart and stomach of a king, and of a king of England too." Her ships attacked, and the weather helped blow the Armada away from England. England and Elizabeth had won. Queen Elizabeth ruled for nearly 45 years. Her reign was called the Golden Age. There were many great artists and writers. William Shakespeare, the most famous playwright ever, performed his plays in front of her. While Elizabeth was queen, England became wealthy and powerful. She had shown that a queen could be just as strong as a king, that a woman could do as good a job as a man. Henry VIII. Sometimes history is shaped by big events like battles or earthquakes. Sometimes just one person changes things, like Henry VIII. When Henry was 18, he became King of England. He loved music, dancing, and playing sports like jousting and archery, but he got angry if he couldn't have his own way. At the time, most people in England belonged to the Catholic Church, run by the Pope, who lived in Rome. Some people said it was run badly and needed to change or reform. But the Pope was so powerful, he could even tell Henry what to do. Henry wanted a son to be king when he died, but he and the Queen, Catherine of Aragon, only had a daughter. Henry wanted to divorce Catherine and marry Anne Boleyn instead. But the Pope said no. Henry was furious. He made everyone agree that in England, he, not the Pope, was in charge of the church. His new church was called the Church of England. The people who wanted the church to change began to do this. This was called the Reformation. Now Henry could do what he liked. He divorced Catherine and married Anne. They had a daughter, Elizabeth. But Anne was accused of working against Henry, so he cut off her head. Then Henry married Jane Seymour. They had a son, but Jane died. Henry then married Anne of Cleves. He didn't like Anne, so he divorced her. Next, he married Catherine Howard, but he cut off her head too. Finally, he married Catherine Parr, but he was old now and died. Divorced, beheaded, died. Divorced, beheaded, survived. Henry VIII changed things for his 6 wives, but by starting the Church of England, he changed history.
A medieval castle had 2 purposes. It was both a fortification and the home of a lord. The first castles were just earthwork enclosures. Later, earth mounds and timber towers were built, forming a type of castle called a motte and bailey. However, the timber constructions were vulnerable to fire, so shell keeps were built to protect the wooden structure within a stone wall or shell. During the time when the motte and baileys were being built, powerful noblemen were constructing the Norman Great Towers. There was no tactical reason for building them so high. The Great Tower, in all its forms, became a symbol of power and nobility. The curtain wall was the castle's most important defensive feature. At first, it was just a wall with a crenellated parapet, but over time, the defences developed. Wall towers were added. Fighting platforms were built, first from timber and later stone. At the same time, gateways evolved from simple openings within towers to twin-towered gateways, keeps in their own right. And castles built with an outer wall around the curtain wall were known as concentric castles. Inside, domestic life often centred around the Great Hall, where the wealthy could entertain guests with lavish feasts. In the case of fortified manor houses, battlements were more for show than defence. Medieval castles were considered so prestigious that the style was revived by rich men who wanted to appear as powerful as the noblemen of the Middle Ages.